Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking up toward heaven? This Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come in the same way as you saw him go into heaven. Please be seated. And at this point, I invite forward all of the children in the congregation, and youth and young folks. So Grace and Foster, if you want to come up, and Francis and Natalie and Isaac and Caleb and anyone who wants to join us, you don't have to, but you are all welcome here. All right, you can just find a seat right around in this area. So, to start off, I'm going to need your help to answer some questions, and some of you all, bigger kids, can help too. Where can we find Jesus? Where can we find Jesus? Someone know? What do you think, Francis? Where he lives? That's a good answer. Where does Jesus live? That's a good next question. Where does Jesus live? What do you all think? You don't know. Natalie, any thoughts? Israel? Okay, that's where Jesus did live when he was on this earth, right? He lived in Israel. What about now?
But when he died, he wasn't.
Yes, when he died, he wasn't. Well, it's a hard question to answer, isn't it? Where does Jesus live? And it's one that his friends wanted to know too. Where could they find Jesus? So because today, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story, and then we'll have some more questions. Because today we get a story called the Ascension. The Ascension is when Jesus, who had come back from the dead and who had spent 40 more days with his friends, realized that it was time for him to go back and to be with God. And so Jesus took his friends out to a place called Bethany, which was a little ways outside of Jerusalem. And he led them out there, and then he lifted up his hands, and he gave them a blessing, and he said some things to them about what he wanted them to do. That he wanted to love all other people just as he had loved them. And then he raised his hands up, and he was lifted up into heaven, into the sky. And what do you think his friends did when that happened? Walked away. Yeah, they did eventually. First they watched as he rose up into heaven. And he rose up into the clouds, and they were standing there just watching, thinking, well, what happens now? We thought Jesus was going to be with us forever. So they're watching, and they're watching, and they're watching. And suddenly, two men appear alongside them, dressed in white. And they say to them, why are you looking at the sky? Why are you looking at the clouds? Jesus isn't there. And they say, Jesus is not there. He's not in the clouds. Look around you. Look around you. He is not gone. He's been lifted up, but he will come again. And he is still with you now. And so, in the Bible, we get to hear a lot of stories about how Jesus is still with us. And we get to learn a lot about where Jesus is. And so we've got... but up high still, and in other ways. And so we're going to talk about some of those other ways. Sophia. What is this? Does anyone know?
Bible.
A Bible. Thank you, Francis. This is a Bible. What does the Bible have in it?
Everything that Jesus and God did.
Yes. We're going to let some other kids answer too. It tells the story of what Jesus and God did. You are right about that. And so it tells the story. And so this is one of the places where we can find Jesus. We can find all kinds of stories about Jesus here. Yeah. And where else can we find Jesus? What is something that we do every Sunday? So we gather and we say prayers, and then everyone comes up to this raised songs, but what do we hold out our hands to get?
Communion.
Yes, thank you, Princess. So this is one of the other places we find Jesus. Every Sunday we gather together and we get bread and we share wine. Does anyone know why we do that?
To celebrate.
Yes. What was that, Natalie? Yeah, because it represents his body and blood. These are ways that Jesus told us that he would always be with us. His body and his blood, the bread and the wine. But there are even other ways that Jesus is still with us. So let's hold on just a second, Francis. I'm going to ask some other folks. What did God and Jesus do at the very beginning of time? Anything else?
Started to make everything.
Yes, thank you, Francis. They started to make everything. And so one of the things that God made were flowers.
And us.
And us, yes. But first God made all of the earth and all of the creatures in it. And one of the ways that God and Jesus are still with us always are in the things that they have made. And so whenever we look and see a flower, or a tree, or a bird, or a woodchuck, or a squirrel, or a rabbit, or a raccoon, or anything that God has made, we can remember that God and Jesus are still with us. They're not in the clouds, they're not in heaven, but they are with us, and all that they have made, all of creation tell us about them. Yes, thank you. Where else can we find Jesus?
Somewhere in the earth.
In the earth, yes. That's what we're just talking about. So one of the other places, I want you all to look out this way. What do you see in this room?
Everyone that God.
Everyone that God made. Thank you. Yes. We see people, right? This is a room full of people. And one of the ways that Jesus says that he is always with us is that Jesus' body is his church. That Jesus is present in all of the people who know him and love him and come closer to him. That Jesus is present, is there in all of the people that he has made. And so whenever we see each other, we can remember that Jesus is with us. That Jesus is with every single person who Jesus has made. And there's one other place that I want us to think about where Jesus is.
In heaven.
Yeah, that was what the disciples thought. That's where they were looking. Hold on, Francis. So, what do you see? What do you see, Grace? Who's in the mirror? Do you want to say? It's okay. Who do you see, Isaac?
Me.
Yeah. Who do you see, Francis?
Me.
Who do you see, Natalie? Exactly.
Who
On the
you
left.
see, Papa?
I see me. And that's the last thing, to remember that Jesus is with every one of us. Jesus is in our hearts and in our minds. Jesus is with us because Jesus loves us.
Jesus is everywhere in our heart.
Yep, Jesus is with us always and all the
And he
time.
goes to different poles all in us.
And that was one of the things that Jesus went when he rose to heaven and he was gone in the way that his friends had known him. He wanted them to know that even though they wouldn't see them like they had, he would be with them. He would be inside them and all around them, in everything that he made, in the pages of the Bible, in the bread and the wine, that God and Jesus would be everywhere with them.
Yes, God and Jesus are in everything that they made.
Thank you, Francis. Sophia, can you bring out the rest of the flowers? So I'm going to give you all a little gift to take with you, to remember to remember that Jesus is in everything and everywhere all the time. So if you help me go grab some of those and hand them out. This would be on the floor, I think, to not get that out. So I should have broken them apart earlier. So I'm going to hand these out. Isaac. And Isaac, would you take them to Caleb too? So you all, yeah. Thank you so much. And I hope that every time you look at these flowers, you can remember that Jesus and Jesus' love are with us always and everywhere, in the world around us, in ourselves, in all the ways that we find him. Thank you all.